if you're buying deals from wholesalers, I guarantee you're overpaying for it. And I did it for years, so I know. But I also owned a wholesale company where we did over 100 deals per year. And so I know how the inside of the business works. So that's what we're going to go through today is I'm going to help you understand the game so that way you can strategize and get actual deals from these guys instead of paying $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 per house that you want to buy. I'm going to show you how to think outside the box and how to have a more systematic way of getting deals from these guys. It's not the same guys that you're talking to most likely. And then finally, I'm going to show you a different way to take control. Okay. So this starts with a post on our Solo House Flipper School community that I answer all posts every day, sometimes with a video like this. But Charbel says, hey, Ross Paller, quick question. Somebody who's tired of paying $15,000 to $25,000, totally. That's actually cheap for some deals. I just paid over $100,000 for a single deal. It was an apartment building, but still six figures. You absolutely crushed it in wholesaling back in the day. Yeah. Smartest way to structure an offer. Let's see how we can. Okay. How do you walk that line where they're terrified of losing the contract, but still come out with the lowest or close to lowest price they'll ever accept? Great question. So let's go back and let's talk about understanding the game. Here's the most important piece to realize about wholesaling as a business. The deal itself is tremendously fragile, and you're always scared that you're going to lose the contract. It takes a lot of money to go out and get a deal. I mean, you might spend on average $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $10,000 just to get a deal. Especially, the prices per deal go up, especially if you have salespeople out there. So once you have a contract, you are very scared to lose it. So you want a buyer that is going to be for sure, that's not going to jeopardize the deal that you just went out and got. So that's why the circles look like this. You have self. Okay. Most wholesalers get in the business because they're trying to get better deals for themselves. That's why we're sitting here talking. But right after that, all right, so you trust yourself, of course, to close the deal, and you want your best deals. But right after that, you have what we used to call our inner circle. Okay, and these are the investors where I knew that they would close. I knew that they were solid buyers. I knew that if they said they were going to do something, they would do it. A lot of times they were like, friends or acquaintances in the business, and they would come through for me. But I knew that I would probably have to discount the deals that I had with them. I wasn't going to get the max amount, but I was okay with that because it was really easy. Like a lot of times these guys would buy the properties based upon pictures alone. They wouldn't need to walk through it, because every time you go walk through a property, it is a chance to lose it. The buyer or the seller, the seller might start freaking out about things. I thought you said no inspections. Who are these people? A lot of these wholesalers, they're like telling them that they're buying it with partners, but really the partners are these other people in their inner circle, or what we're about to talk about. And so it's a fragile deal. They're afraid somebody's going to mess it up. A lot of times when I go buy from a wholesaler, I always ask hey, do you want me to act like a contractor or what? Who am I supposed to be? Right? Because I understand that the things are fragile, which we're going to get into the strategy here in a second. But there's the inner circle. Okay. Those are the people that I knew would come through. However, I also knew that they were going to get a better deal than if I went out to the list. Okay. You hear about it all the time. The wholesaling business has two sides. It's got the sellers the people actually selling their house, and you're out there marketing to these people, trying to get the deals in the first place. But then you have the buyer side. You have your buyers list, and people build up humongous buyers lists. And we had whatever, thousands of people on the buyers list, and you would send out the email. I got this deal. I'm sure most of you guys have those lists, or you're on those lists. Here's the thing. On most of the deals, never even sent it out to the list because the inner circle would buy it and they were more trustworthy, right? The further I go out from the center of my circle as a wholesaler, the more dangerous things get, the more, on this fragile deal. So it's rare that I go out to the list. Okay. And I got to say this about the wholesalers is that I am lazy. Okay. 80-20 is my middle name, In fact, I think on my gravestone, they'll say he gave 70%. I'm saying that because the inner circle was always more attractive to me. I'll take less money to just have the sure thing. I'm not sure if that was the best strategy for optimizing my revenue or my profit in that business. But, I wanted to focus on other things like, actually buying houses for myself. So going to the list, some of these big wholesalers out there, they have great lists and they really know how to work them. They have processes for working them. They get the houses under contract in a way that it puts them in a good position to be able to let people show the house. And these people are going out for top dollar. So those people don't really care about you at all. They have other people. Their whole game is to find more buyers, especially out-of-state buyers, especially people who, are corporate type of buyers. They have a corporate job and they're just using that high salary to go buy deals on the side. Those are great if you're a wholesaler. You want those people on your list. In fact, you'll bring them into your inner circle because they're going to overpay for crap and not be a problem. In fact, what you do a lot of times is maybe mentor those people, help them in their business so they'll just buy from you. This happens often. Okay. And then there is one more circle here. And I hope that's coming through. I just, for lack of better words, call this the Craigslist circle. Okay. Could be Facebook Marketplace as well. Facebook Marketplace. And, this is nobody on the list is buying it. Nobody in the inner circle is buying it. So I'm going to shoot it out on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace and see what happens. And you get all kinds of randos. And so here's what I'm saying. That most likely, if you see a deal that far out, it's because it sucks. Nobody else wanted to buy it. And, or they're a wholesaler who's really focused on the buy side of their business and they're trying to get the top dollar. Okay. So they're trying to make the market as big as possible, as close to being a real estate agent as possible. That does bring me to one other thing. In certain places, you can actually list a house on the MLS that you have under contract. Whatever, same thing. They're trying to get to the biggest reach market. And, supply and demand is pretty simple. The supply is house, the contract that they have. And if you're trying to get the max dollar, what you want is the biggest demand possible, the most people that might see that house. That's why houses on the market, on the MLS, on Zillow or whatever, they usually are bad deals because there's a lot of demand for it. So if it's left for you to buy, it's probably a crappy deal. All right, so same concept. The wholesalers who are building a bigger market for themselves, probably crappier deals, which leads to the strategy. Now, here's what I want to do. First is if it was easy to find that wholesaler, I'm probably never going to buy a deal from them. They probably have figured out how to create the biggest market for themselves. And, well, screw that. Good for them, but screw that. I'm not in that. I don't want their bad deals. If I want to go buy bad deals, I'll just go to the MLS, go through a real estate agent and buy a bad deal. They're all over the place. Easy to do. Okay. Nope, not going to rant on that. Bad deals are everywhere. Make sure you're not buying them. All right. So I'm going to avoid the guys that are easy to find because I know that's a bad deal with caveats. Remember that the deals are really fragile for these guys. So if they've had something under contract for a long time and it's about to go out of contract, then they might be a deal. So, the one possible way is oh my gosh, let's not use that. One is end of contract. Okay, they probably have a contract to purchase that house that they're trying to sell or assign their position for a fee. That's what wholesalers do. Maybe they have like 90 days. It's going to close in 90 days. And it's at day 85. And so it comes down to they either sell it to you for a deep discount or they get no money. And even at that point, let's say that they have it under contract for $150,000. Okay, they have it under contract for $150,000, and they're trying to sell it for $180,000. Pretty typical, right? And now it's coming to the end of the deal, and you come in and you say, "Hey, I'll give you $155." Well, that would happen all the time. And if I was the wholesaler in that position, I'm thinking, well, I already spent the money to get the deal. And so, I would take $150 and $100 for two reasons. One is because I don't want to not make any money. But two is like, you definitely don't want to lose contracts. Not even from a business standpoint. The worst thing for any wholesaler that has any sort of heart whatsoever, which some might not have any, but if you have any heart at all, you don't want to have to turn around and say, "Oh, hey, sorry, you thought you were going to sell this house. You're not." So there were times that we would sell houses for like a $0 fee just because of that reason. So you get the point. If you can wait till the timeline, till the end of their contract, that is when you would get a deal. But once again, these big wholesalers are likely not going to get to the end of the contract. They likely have contracts that are pushed out and have extensions. They likely have a list to where they are going to be able to move that deal and get a profit. And also the big wholesalers are really good. You'll see $30,000, $40,000 wholesale fees because they get great deals on the front end. Like, they earn it. I'm not saying they don't. And in fact, I like those guys better than some of the small guys because they do know the game and they are going to be able to move these deals. So they're actually a net positive. And then, so the question is, all right, obviously there's some that you can get when they're right at the end of a contract. Other than that, honestly, you're not going to get a deal from those guys. Not a very good deal. You'll get like a mediocre deal, similar to what you could get on the real estate market. So here's the outside the box thinking. Knowing everything that you now know, what you really need to do is you need to go out and find newbies. Okay? These are guys that, building the wholesale business is really tough because you got to do the sell side, go find deals and leads, and you got to go find buyers. So you're trying to do those two things at once. And, a lot of these guys don't have great business skills. And so it's really difficult for them to do those things. And it's like, do you start with the buyers or do you start with the leads? And so a lot of these guys will get leads and they won't have anybody to buy them. And you want to go out and find these guys is what I'm saying, because they'll likely sell you deals where it's like $1,000 to $5,000 of assignment. Like, I remember when we first started, it was like, gosh, can we really ask for $5,000 for this thing? And then, by the end, it was like, let's rip it for 35K, like who cares? Like we got the deal, man. We deserve it. Whereas once again, at the beginning, it's like, oh, I'm really going to ask this guy for $1,000. I mean, all I did was went out and got a deal, not understanding the value. And so those are the guys you want to find. I mean, those were the kinds of deals that we were selling out there at the beginning. So where do you find these guys? Go to your RIAs, the real estate meetups, Facebook, look for people putting Facebook deals out there because, yes, there's the big boys who go to their list like we talked about earlier, the whole outer circle, but there's also people just don't have a buyer's list at all. And they're like, well, what do I do? I guess I'll put it on Craigslist. And, those are great to find. And then you want to work the relationship with them, be the first person they call every time. Make yourself a solid buyer, knowing that deals are fragile or whatever. But, and the other thing to understand is that a lot of these new wholesalers don't actually have much real estate background. So you can actually be a mentor to them. And then, they're going to call their mentor first for every deal. They might see you as a seasoned professional when you may have only done 1 or 2 deals in your lifetime. And so that's what you're looking for. So there's the RIAs, there's people actually posting on Craigslist or the like Facebook Marketplace. And well, I mean, that is really the places to go. Facebook groups out there, when I say RIAs, I mean either actual physical meetups or Facebook groups that are local. That's where you're going to find these guys, and they're going to be either asking to find a buyer's list. They're asking if they're trying to find investors for their buyer's list, or they're posting a deal that they got and they're probably crappy deals. This is the reality on let's take that same $150,000 house example. Well, a seasoned wholesaler is probably going to get that house for 150 when it could be sold for 180, with the assignment. Whereas a new wholesaler is going to get it for 175 and then try to push it out there for 180. That is the downside. But if you keep on it, you'll find some sluggers out there, people who really actually know how to go out and get deals. And then you're in the driver's seat. You're the market of one for them. And one other place that you can find these guys is look at the mail. They're sending out mail to get deals, which leads me to the next thing. The final thing that you can do is take control yourself. And what I mean by that is you become the wholesaler. You go direct to seller. And, this is a really big block for a lot of people. They get freaked out about this. Therefore, they end up just paying wholesalers or overbuying deals, which I'm telling you, it's the game changer. If you are able to actually get deals, just take that same house. Somebody's going to go out there and buy it for 180 and think it's a good deal. You could have gotten it for 150. Imagine all the mess ups that you could make in construction for a $30,000 padding that you have, right? Because they're selling you at 180 because if everything goes right, if the rehab works out the way it's supposed to, if it sells for the amount it's supposed to, things never work out that way. It always is worse than it seems. And so if you could give yourself that padding, makes all the difference. Okay, so that's why I'm saying you become the wholesaler, meaning you go out and get direct deals. And it's way simpler than everybody thinks. Okay, this is all you got to do. Go to Property Radar. I have no affiliation with any of these people. These are the tools that I actually use. Go to Property Radar. Sign up. It's like $100 a month. I know, a whole bunch. But with that, you can get lists. All right. There's other places where you can go get lists. By the way, there's like List Source, there's PropStream, that's another competitor here. There's Batch Leads or Batch Deals, all kinds of them out there. But anyway, you go in here and you get a list. Let's say, I'm in Hamilton County right now. So let's say that I want to get a list for Hamilton County, and you can specify inside of there, but I don't want to make this too complex. Get a list for all of Hamilton County. There's like 200,000 houses here or something like that. And I get a list of every one of those addresses, who owns those houses, what their like mailing address is, right? Because like I own houses where I don't live there. So there's the target property address and then the mailing address for the owner. And then from there, you can get their phone number. So you have their mailing address, their phone number, and even their email, because things like Property Radar, they do what's called skip tracing. That's where you find their phone number and their email address. And then you can just contact them. As simple as I look out the window and I see this house that, the grass is overgrown a little bit. And I'm like, oh, okay, let me look at my list. Here's the guy's number. I'm just going to call him. Hey, I saw that your yard is overgrown a little bit. Looks like you don't take care of your house. Maybe you don't care about it. Maybe you just rather have cash for it. That's the simplest version. Okay. Or you can go a little bit further. By the way, that's called driving for dollars. If you ever heard that before, it's seeing a house that looks crappy and you call the person. Pretty simple. You build a list based on houses that look like people don't care about them. Okay. So next thing is I could, instead of calling this one house, I could just cold call the list, or I could hire people to cold call the list, basically saying this: hey, I'm a local investor, would love to make a cash offer on your house. If you're interested, let me know. By the way, that script sucks. We could work on that, but you get the idea. Or 3 is you take the mailing address and then you send them a letter using something like this, open letter. I love this. There's other ones out there as well. Ryan Dawsey, he's got a company where he does something just like this. And there's like yellow letter marketing where they send out some mail. I've liked open letter marketing. I like that owner, whatever. I think it's a good company. This is the one that I use mostly, but I've used all of them. And sometimes I try different things, but anyway, you just load up that list and you put it in here, and it's going to tell you how much it is for the mail to send out to those people. They handle it all. And then you get calls. It's pretty simple. I mean, I always say that first you should set up a home base, which is a simple landing page that shows that you live here. You have an actual physical address, because a lot of people have PO boxes, live somewhere else. It is really nice to be able to sell your house to a local investor, not somebody out of town. And a local phone number, have the right area code. And that's it. You're ready to go. Send out the mail and people will start calling you. All right. Those are the basic ways to own the deal flow. And owning the deal flow makes all of the difference, guys. I'm telling you, it's a big hump that a lot of people don't want to get over. But once you do, it is a total different business. When you're not up against the wall on every single deal, you get that padding to where you can make mistakes, because I don't care who you are, you're going to make mistakes. And, it gives you time. It gives you ways to breathe. It makes it, instead of being a business like most businesses where you feel suffocated all the time, you got room to do whatever the hell you want, because you have time, you got the money on your side. Get the great deal on the front end, guys. It makes all the difference. See ya.